Have you ever contemplated the precise moment when a single melody transcends its temporal origins to become a permanent echo of the human spirit? We embark today upon an exhaustive investigation into one of the most profound achievements in classical music history, Felix Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in A minor. This work represents not merely a technical triumph for the soloist, but a radical departure from established concerto norms. Join me as we dissect this masterpiece. As we stand here amidst the monumental architecture of Petra, we are reminded that true excellence is built upon foundations of rigorous discipline and visionary foresight. Mendelssohn's concerto is such a monument. Composed over a period of 6 arduous years, it bridged the gap between the classical restraint of Mozart and the burgeoning emotional intensity of the Romantic era. To understand its magnitude, one must examine the archaeological and historical context of mid-19th century Europe, a time of rapid industrialization and shifting cultural paradigms. This documentary provides a detailed scene-by-scene exploration of the 1844 revisions that shaped the version we cherish today. Leipzig, in the mid-19th century, was the heartbeat of European musical life. The cobblestone streets and rising spires of the city provided an environment of intellectual ferment that was essential for Mendelssohn's creative output. We see in the architecture of the era a reflection of the transition from classical balance to romantic grandeur. Archival engravings of 1840s Leipzig street life depict a society where music was not merely entertainment, but a central pillar of civic identity. It was here that Mendelssohn served as the conductor of the Gewandhaus Orchestra, a position that gave him unprecedented access to the finest instrumentalists of his day. The interior of the old Gewandhaus concert hall, with its high ceilings and intimate seating arrangements, shaped the acoustic expectations of the concerto. Mendelssohn designed the violin's entry to capitalize on the hall's natural resonance, ensuring every delicate nuance of the upper register would reach the back rows. Late into the night, Mendelssohn worked in his study, the flickering candlelight illuminating manuscripts that were often fraught with crossings out and extensive revisions. These documents reveal a composer who was never satisfied with the first draft, constantly seeking a more perfect union of melody and structure. The letters exchanged between Mendelssohn and Ferdinand David in 1838 show the very beginning of the E minor project. David's technical advice on violin technique was pivotal, leading Mendelssohn to adjust the fingerings in the first movement to better suit the instrument's inherent physical properties. From this desk in Leipzig, Mendelssohn looked out upon a world in transition. His scores, spread out under the warm glow of a desk lamp, were his attempt to create a sense of order and beauty amidst the chaos of the industrial age. The desk serves as the archaeological site of his creative process, where the E minor concerto was painstakingly assembled over 6 years. The final dedication page, beautifully inscribed with David's name, marks the conclusion of an arduous 6-year journey. It is a document of historical significance, confirming the successful union of compositional genius and instrumental virtuosity. This page is the archaeological capstone of the E minor project, signaling its readiness for the world stage. The genesis of this concerto began in July 1838, when Mendelssohn expressed his desire to write a work for his friend, the virtuoso Ferdinand David. This was no ordinary commission. It was a collaborative labor of love that spanned 6 arduous years of meticulous refinement and intellectual exchange. Mendelssohn, ever the perfectionist, wrestled with the balance of the solo instrument against the burgeoning weight of the romantic orchestra. He sought to redefine the traditional concerto structure by eliminating the customary pause between movements. The libraries of Europe contain the physical evidence of the concerto's global spread. From the original manuscripts in Leipzig to the countless transcriptions published in Paris and New York, the work's archival footprint is vast. It is a document of human achievement that has been meticulously preserved for future generations of scholars. In the lecture halls of the 19th century, the A minor concerto was used as a case study in harmonic resolution and structural unity. Mendelssohn's ability to transition seamlessly between movements was seen as a masterclass in musical narrative, teaching students how to build a large-scale work from a single coherent thematic cell. The act of composition for Mendelssohn was one of intense physical and intellectual labor. Every stroke of the quill was a calculated decision, informed by a deep knowledge of the past and a visionary outlook toward the future. The ink on these pages represents the lifeblood of a masterpiece that has endured for over a century. The red wax seal on a 19th century letter represents the weight of historical authority and the privacy of intellectual exchange. The correspondence between Mendelssohn and his publishers in London and Paris reveals the strategic planning that went into the concerto's global launch. Every detail was calculated to ensure its status as a permanent addition to the repertoire. In the quiet study areas of Europe's great libraries, scholars continue to pore over Mendelssohn's scores. The archival evidence of his revisions and adjustments provides a never-ending source of insight into his creative mind. The library is a sanctuary of historical truth, where the excellence of the past is preserved for the students of the future. The dust motes dancing in the light of an ancient library remind us of the passage of time and the fragility of human memory. Yet, within these stacks, the structural integrity of Mendelssohn's E minor concerto remains untouched. It is a living document that defies the decay of centuries, a permanent echo of the human spirit. Under the ornate chandeliers of the world's most beautiful libraries, the E minor concerto is celebrated as a peak of intellectual achievement. The surrounding stacks of knowledge provide the context for our investigation, reminding us that Mendelssohn's excellence was not an accident, but the result of a lifelong commitment to rigorous discipline. The technical demands of the E minor concerto presented an unprecedented challenge for contemporary performers. Unlike the concertos of his predecessors, Mendelssohn placed the cadenza at the end of the development section. This placement required the soloist to maintain an extraordinary level of concentration. Ferdinand David and Mendelssohn exchanged numerous letters debating the acoustic balance, fearing the solo voice might be swallowed by the brass and woodwinds. Every performance became a battlefield of technical precision and raw emotional honesty. Every part of the violin, from the intricate carving of the scroll to the tension of the pegs, was considered in Mendelssohn's orchestration. He understood the physical limits of the wood and catgut strings, writing passages that pushed those limits without ever exceeding them. This deep understanding of the instrument's anatomy is a hallmark of his genius. Scholarly sketches of the violin's F-holes and internal sound post from the 19th century highlight the era's growing archaeological interest in instrument construction. Mendelssohn was aware of these developments, often discussing the acoustic properties of Stradivarius and Guarneri instruments with David. The construction of the violin bow also underwent significant changes during this period. Mendelssohn's score requires a level of spiccato and legato control that was only possible with the refined bow designs of the mid-19th century. This technical synergy between composer and maker was essential for the work's success. We must also consider the role of gut strings, which provided a warmer, more intimate tone than modern steel strings. The E minor concerto was conceived for this specific sound palette, requiring the soloist to manage the inherent instability of the material while maintaining pitch perfection across all three movements. The soloist's control over vibrato in the Allegro molto appassionato is a study in acoustic physics. By manipulating the frequency of the string's vibration, the performer can create a sense of urgent romantic longing that is perfectly balanced by the orchestra's rhythmic stability. This technical nuance is what allows the violin to remain the emotional center of the work. Mendelssohn's use of the spiccato bowing technique in the third movement creates a playful, elf-like atmosphere that was a signature of his style. The bow must bounce with mathematical regularity, requiring the soloist to possess an extraordinary level of motor control and rhythmic awareness. It is a brilliant display of instrumental virtuosity. The intricate carving of the violin scroll is more than just an aesthetic choice. It is a symbol of the artisanal tradition that Mendelssohn deeply respected. Each curve and line in these 19th century sketches represents a commitment to structural perfection that mirrors the composer's own approach to musical form. The scroll serves as the physical and symbolic head of the instrument, anchoring the tension of the strings. Scholarly diagrams of the violin bridge and string height measurements from the mid-19th century provide the archaeological evidence of the period's technical standards. Mendelssohn and David discussed these minute details to ensure the soloist could navigate the E minor concerto's rapid arpeggios with surgical precision. The 8 mm string height shown here was a standard that allowed for both power and agility. The intellectual depth of the E minor concerto is rooted in the vast library of musical knowledge that Mendelssohn mastered from a young age. These ancient, leather-bound volumes represent the pedagogical foundation upon which his innovations were built. He was a student of the past, using the wisdom of Bach and Handel to forge a new path for the Romantic era. Beneath the polished surface of the violin lies a complex internal architecture, including the bass bar and sound post. Mendelssohn's orchestration was designed with a deep awareness of how these internal components influence the instrument's resonance and projection. He wrote for the soul of the violin, understanding that true beauty is built from the inside out. The formal dedication of the concerto to "My dear friend Ferdinand David" is a testament to the collaborative spirit of the Romantic age. Their 6-year dialogue was not merely a professional exchange, but a deep personal connection that is reflected in the warmth and intimacy of the score. It is a work born of friendship and mutual intellectual respect. The mechanical integrity of the peg box and the precision of the string tension are essential for the soloist's performance. Mendelssohn's E minor concerto requires the instrument to stay in perfect tune through a relentless series of high-register shifts and double stops. These technical sketches highlight the engineering challenges that performers must overcome to realize the composer's vision. The choice of woods, spruce for the top and maple for the back, is what gives the violin its unique acoustic fingerprint. Mendelssohn was keenly aware of these material properties, often commenting on the specific voice of different instruments. He sought a sound that combined the clarity of the spruce with the warmth of the maple, a sonic synthesis that defines the E minor concerto. Academic illustrations of the violin's anatomy, with labels for the Decke and Becke, provide a scholarly framework for our investigation. Mendelssohn's score is a musical anatomy of the instrument, exploring every corner of its range and every nuance of its expressive potential. It is a work that demands a complete understanding of the violin's physical and emotional capabilities. The soloist's grip on the bow is the primary interface between the human spirit and the musical instrument. Mendelssohn's score requires a level of bow control that was unprecedented, from the long singing lines of the Andante to the rapid-fire spiccato of the finale. This anatomical sketch reminds us of the physical discipline required to achieve artistic transcendence. The legacy of the great Italian violin makers, Stradivarius and Guarneri, was a constant point of reference for Mendelssohn. He understood that his concerto would be performed on these historical treasures, and he wrote music that would showcase their unique acoustic properties. This list of archival labels reminds us of the historical depth that resides within the 4 strings of a master violin. The mathematical regularity of the metronome provided Mendelssohn with a tool for rhythmic precision. His tempo markings for the E minor concerto, Allegro molto appassionato, Andante, and Allegretto non troppo, are calculated to create a specific emotional arc. The metronome represents the intersection of musical expression and scientific measurement that is a hallmark of his style. On the grand stages of 19th century Europe, the concerto was seen as a bold statement of artistic intent. The wide, sweeping shots of the stage remind us of the scale of the orchestral forces Mendelssohn had to balance against the singular, soaring voice of the solo violin. It was a democratic vision of music making. The atmosphere of the 1845 premiere under the grand chandeliers of Leipzig was one of hushed anticipation. The audience, accustomed to long orchestral introductions, was stunned when the violin entered almost immediately with its haunting minor key theme. This was the moment the Romantic concerto truly came of age. From the conductor's podium, the score of the E minor concerto is a model of clarity and organization. Mendelssohn's meticulous markings for the woodwinds and brass ensured that the soloist was supported by a transparent orchestral texture, allowing the violin's melody to float effortlessly above the ensemble. As the doors to the concert hall open, we are invited into a world of formal perfection and artistic intent. The ritual of the classical performance is a bridge to the past, a way for us to experience the E minor concerto exactly as Mendelssohn intended. We step across the threshold of history into a landscape of enduring beauty. As we reach the climax of our investigation, we see in the face of the performer the deep emotional weight of Mendelssohn's vision. The intense concentration and raw passion required to execute the final movements are a reflection of the human spirit's ability to transcend technical limitation and achieve true beauty. The final notes of the E minor concerto ring out with a sense of total harmonic resolution and triumph. The synergy between the orchestra and the soloist reaches its peak, providing a conclusion that is both intellectually satisfying and emotionally overwhelming. It is a monument of musical achievement that will stand for centuries to come. The eventual resolution came through a harmonious synthesis of melody and form. Mendelssohn's masterstroke was the introduction of the solo violin immediately, bypassing the long orchestral exposition. This immersive entry pulled the listener instantly into the emotional landscape. The gospel of this concerto lies in its democratic orchestration, the way the orchestra and soloist exist in a state of mutual support. Observe the transition to the second movement. The bassoon holds a single B that bridges the gap between E minor and C major. The logic behind the E minor concerto is grounded in a deep understanding of musical architecture. We see in these abstract visualizations how Mendelssohn used the golden ratio and mathematical patterns to build a sense of inevitability into his themes. It is a synthesis of cold logic and warm emotion that remains unique in the repertoire. The mathematical precision of Mendelssohn's score can be visualized as a series of complex waveforms and golden ratio patterns. His music is built on a foundation of acoustic logic that satisfies both the ear and the mind. It is a synthesis of art and science that reveals the underlying order of the universe. Every interval and harmonic progression in the E minor concerto is part of a larger geometric design. Mendelssohn used these patterns to create a sense of inevitable momentum, pulling the listener forward through the musical landscape with a logic that is both rigorous and emotionally compelling. It is a peak of compositional intelligence. The logic of the golden ratio is evident in the thematic development of the E minor concerto. Mendelssohn used these mathematical patterns to build a sense of organic growth and inevitable momentum into his score. It is a synthesis of acoustic science and artistic inspiration that creates a perfect balance of form and feeling. Like a network of light rays, the harmonic progressions of Mendelssohn's score connect the past with the future. His music is built on a rigorous foundation of classical counterpoint, yet it reaches forward into the emotional intensity of the Romantic era. It is a brilliant display of intellectual foresight and artistic integrity. The complex waveforms of the violin's solo entry are a study in acoustic purity. Mendelssohn calculated the frequency and amplitude of every note to ensure a perfect balance between the soloist and the orchestra. This mathematical precision is what allows the concerto to remain both intellectually rigorous and emotionally accessible to a global audience. The tension between the minor key darkness and the major key light is visualized here as a pulse of blue and red light. Mendelssohn manipulated these harmonic frequencies to create a sense of urgent psychological struggle that eventually leads to a triumphant resolution. It is a masterclass in the logic of human emotion and musical form. The symmetry of the concerto's three movements is a reflection of Mendelssohn's commitment to classical balance. Each part of the work is a mirror of the others, building a cohesive narrative that satisfies the mind's need for order and the heart's need for expression. It is a peak of compositional intelligence that continues to challenge us today. The grid-like structure of the 1844 score provides the evidence of Mendelssohn's rigorous approach to orchestration. Every note was placed with intention, ensuring that the diverse elements of the ensemble function together to achieve a singular, transcendent objective. It is a blueprint for excellence that has endured for over a century. Within the cloud of musical notes, Mendelssohn found a clarity of vision that is unique in the history of classical music. His E minor concerto is a monument of structured passion, where the logic of the mind and the depth of the spirit are wedded in a brilliant display of human potential. It is a masterpiece of historical and archaeological significance. As we apply these historical principles to our modern understanding, we recognize that beauty often emerges from the most rigorous discipline. The E minor concerto teaches us that true freedom is found within the boundaries of intentional design and persistent practice. In the contemporary world, where digital noise often obscures the signal of truth, Mendelssohn's clarity of vision serves as a guiding light. Just as the ancient stones of Petra tell a story of endurance, so too does this score. It asks us, how do we maintain our individual voice? Just as the desert landscapes of the Judean wilderness endure through the centuries, so too does the structural integrity of Mendelssohn's work. The long shadows of the setting sun over the dunes remind us of the historical depth and ancient roots of our musical heritage. It is a landscape of timeless beauty. Archaeological sites like Capernaum serve as physical reminders of the permanence of human achievement. When we analyze Mendelssohn's score through an academic lens, we find a similar permanence, a set of musical ruins that remain structurally sound and emotionally resonant even as the world around them changes. As we look over the ancient walls of Jerusalem, we are reminded of the enduring power of historical truth. Mendelssohn's concerto, like these stones, has survived the upheaval of centuries, providing a sense of stability and beauty in an ever-changing world. It is a musical landmark that continues to guide us. The sunrise over the Sea of Galilee mirrors the exuberant triumph of the concerto's final movement. The shift from the minor key darkness of the opening into the bright light of E major is a psychological journey that resonates with our shared human experience of resilience and hope. It is a moment of pure, transcendent joy. The panoramic views of the Sea of Galilee at sunrise provide a moment of modern resonance for our investigation. The ancient landscape, untouched by the passage of centuries, mirrors the enduring structural integrity of Mendelssohn's work. It is a landscape of hope and resilience that speaks to the universal language of his music. As we look along the shoreline of the Galilee, we find a sense of peace and stability that is echoed in the concerto's andante movement. The ripples on the water are like the delicate arpeggios of the solo violin, building a sense of momentum that is both rigorous and emotionally accessible. It is a moment of pure, transcendent beauty. The wide shots of the Jerusalem skyline at dusk remind us of the historical depth and ancient foundations of our global heritage. Mendelssohn's E minor concerto is a part of that heritage, a musical landmark that stands alongside the great monuments of human achievement. It is a testament to the pursuit of excellence in an imperfect world. From the rooftops of Jerusalem, we see a city built on layers of historical evidence and archaeological truth. Our investigation of Mendelssohn's score has revealed similar layers, a complex architecture of harmonic tension and resolution that has sustained the concerto's status for over 150 years. It is a monument of sound that endures. The archaeological perspective of the Western Wall provides a physical reminder of the permanence of human achievement. Mendelssohn's E minor concerto, like these ancient stones, provides a sense of stability and beauty in a rapidly changing world. It is a foundational text that continues to guide and inspire us today. The drone footage of the Capernaum ruins highlights the importance of historical preservation. Every stone and artifact we find deepens our understanding of the past. Similarly, every recorded performance and original manuscript of Mendelssohn's concerto deepens our appreciation for the structural perfection of his E minor masterpiece. It is a heritage of excellence. The hills surrounding the Sea of Galilee, illuminated by the morning sun, serve as a metaphor for the soaring themes of Mendelssohn's final movement. The exuberance and triumph of the E major finale are a reflection of the human spirit's ability to overcome struggle and achieve true joy. It is a peak of compositional intelligence and emotional honesty. We reach the climax of our investigation as we acknowledge the indelible mark this concerto has left upon the global cultural landscape. From the conservatories of Beijing to the grand halls of Vienna, it is the rite of passage for every virtuoso. It is more than music, it is global heritage. The final movement's shift from E minor to a triumphant E major is not just a musical resolution, but a psychological one, a movement from introspection toward communal celebration. Mendelssohn's genius lay in his ability to make the complex feel simple. In the modern metropolises of Asia, Mendelssohn's concerto remains a central pillar of musical education. The work's global legacy is evident in the thousands of students who study its score every year, ensuring that the composer's vision of excellence continues to inspire new generations of performers across the world. The concert halls of New York and the major cultural centers of the West have witnessed countless interpretations of the E minor masterpiece, from the legendary recordings of the mid-20th century to the innovative performances of today. The concerto's adaptability is a testament to its universal and enduring appeal. The hard data of historical reception confirms that Mendelssohn's violin concerto was an immediate and lasting success. Over 100,000 recorded performances and its status as the most frequently performed work in the repertoire provide empirical evidence of its unique position in human culture. It is a masterpiece of historical significance. In our final academic evaluation, we look at the hard data, over 100,000 recorded performances, and its status as the foundational text for modern violin pedagogy. The archaeological context of the 1840s provides the evidence we need to understand why this work resonated so deeply. When the concerto was first performed in London, the critics were struck by its formal innovation. The lack of an orchestral exposition was seen as a radical departure from the tradition of Beethoven and Brahms. Yet the audience's response was overwhelmingly positive, confirming that Mendelssohn had successfully bridged the gap between academic rigor and public appeal. In Berlin, the archaeological record of the era's musical reception reveals a deep respect for Mendelssohn's ability to synthesize classical counterpoint with modern romantic sentiment. The city's academic circles analyzed the A minor concerto as a peak of formal perfection, setting a standard that would influence generations of German composers. The historical streets of Berlin, with their rising monuments and academic institutions, provided the social backdrop for the concerto's German reception. It was a city that valued both the logic of the Enlightenment and the passion of the Romantic movement, making it the perfect environment for Mendelssohn's E minor masterpiece to flourish and endure. Our journey through the corridors of Felix Mendelssohn's E minor concerto brings us to a deeper appreciation of the discipline required to create enduring beauty. May the harmony and integrity found within this masterpiece reflect in your own journey toward excellence. I wish you abundant blessings as you explore the historical treasures of our world. Thank you for your rigorous attention to this 20-minute academic investigation. 구독과 좋아요를 눌러주세요. 감사합니다.